lost. And all he did to help me get here.
Horizon Zero Dawn is the first open-world game from the developers of the Killzone franchise, Guerrilla Games. It was first released in 2017 exclusively for the PS4. When I first heard about Horizon, I was intrigued. The robo-dinosaurs mixed with the techno-tribalistic character designs gave me the sensation that Guerrilla Games had made something special. Now that Horizon has come out, and its major story DLC, The Frozen Wilds, has been released, we can see a complete picture of what the developers envisioned Horizon Zero Dawn to be, and what a vision it is. Horizon Zero Dawn has a very strong opening act. Unlike the usual game intro, where the character is a fully developed warrior, Horizon opens with our main protagonist as an infant. She's being taken by her caretaker Roast to be named.
Oh, Mother, this child needs a name by which to know her, that your love may warm her life as the rising sun warms all the earth. Speak her name!
Aloy!
She has no mother. That fact makes her an outcast in her tribe. Roast is an untouchable too, and he is charged with taking care of Aloy. The story jumps ahead a little, and Aloy is a young girl. She's out with Roast hunting, and she falls into an ancient cavern. She discovers a focus, which gives Aloy a glimpse into the world that came before hers. All technology is taboo in her tribe's culture, so Roast tries to take her focus. But Aloy won't relent. Roast concedes, and Aloy helps him by using her new gizmo. As Aloy progresses through her youth, she's isolated by everyone except Roast. Aloy wants to know why she's shunned by her tribe. Roast explains that she's rejected by her people because of her mother. The only way for Aloy to find out who her mother is to win a competition to become a brave in her tribe. Aloy decides that she will find out about her past, and Roast will be the one to teach her how to become a warrior. Then we get a pretty kick-ass montage, and Aloy is now grown. The story ramps up quickly from here. While the tale is enjoyable, there is a very direct storytelling style. There isn't much left to the imagination, but it is a fun ride. Frozen Wilds finds Aloy in a brand new section of the map called The Cut. Machines are being taken over by robotic tentacles called towers. This, coupled with a volcanic eruption, has made the inhabitants of the Himalayan-like setting restless. It's up to Aloy to save the day, and she does so spectacularly. I enjoyed the expansion story. It felt more directed, and it shows how many new ideas are left for the Horizon world. The one thing that I felt was a missed opportunity throughout the Horizon story was the character Roast. Every time he speaks to Aloy, he ends by saying, "Follow." It would have been cool to see this phrase pay off in a moment where perhaps Aloy could no longer follow. For how cool of a character Roast is, he kind of serves as purely a plot device. For that matter, almost all the characters in Horizon feel this way. There is one major silver lining in Horizon Zero Dawn's by-the-numbers story. Aloy. Aloy is a fantastic character. She is willful, resourceful, and above all, loyal. At the same time, Aloy is naive. She isn't a brute, but she uses force when necessary. Without this character, there wouldn't be much reason to get invested in the story. One thing that I was very relieved about in Horizon Zero Dawn's story is that Aloy has no love interest. I rarely enjoy love stories in games, and I was glad there wasn't one shoehorned into the plot of Horizon. The gameplay of Horizon Zero Dawn takes its cues from the Tomb Raider reboot and The Last of Us. The combat revolves around precisely placing arrows in enemies' weaknesses. There are two types of foes that Aloy must face: humans and machines. Humans are the simplest to deal with. Line up a headshot and it's curtains. Then there are two types of machines. Wild machines inhabit the vast grasslands of Horizon, and the other are leftover war machines from the long-gone civilization that came before Aloy's time. The war machines are surprisingly manageable. They have pretty easy to exploit weaknesses. The machines that you find in the wild have weaknesses too, but they are much tougher than the others. While playing Horizon, you want to treat all encounters as if you were hunting. Aloy cannot survive against a group of enemies, so the smart money is on separating an enemy from the pack. One by one, Aloy can cull the weakest from the herd, leaving the larger prey without a pack to provide safety. The gameplay works great, and Horizon gives you a sense of being a stealthy, prowling killing machine. However, this tactic isn't very effective against the largest machines. Instead, you need to quickly neutralize the most lethal parts of the machine. The only problem is that these machines are so big, and their hitboxes so massive, it can be really frustrating trying to get away from them without taking a lot of damage. This can be particularly true in story sections of the game, where you don't have large planes to rely on for keeping distance between you and a mechanized T-Rex or a mechanical alligator. In the future, it might be better to take a Shadow of the Colossus approach, where Aloy gets on top of the machine to exploit their weaknesses. The bow and arrow feel great in Horizon. After a while, you'll be landing headshots and abusing machines' frailties from hundreds of yards away. The level of accuracy the bow and arrow give you makes other tactics, like traps, feel unnecessary in many encounters. Aloy can attack with the staff as well, but it isn't very effective in combat, due to the lack of ability to cancel actions into dodges. She can crouch in tall grass and remain unseen by foes. This limited stealth option works at effectively flanking enemies and giving you a clear advantage. Aloy can use the focus to see where each enemy should be attacked, and identify where all the enemies are. Stalking your prey and luring them into the grass allows Aloy to one-shot stealth kill most enemies. When the action gets hectic, boy, can it get crazy. When you get seen, Horizon quickly goes from deliberate, patient stalking to scrambling to stay alive. Every type of enemy does big damage. Aloy still needs to be precise in frenzied encounters though. Shooting arrows blindly at enemies does little damage. Exploiting their flaws is critical at all times. You can jump and slide and use a focus meter to slow down time to help you in more frenetic battles. Horizon uses a weapons wheel to select 4 weapons on the fly. It's easy to read and time slows down just enough to catch your breath. Aloy gets her abilities, weapons, and buffs through crafting, scavenging, and 4 skill trees. She has to craft her ammunition, and there's a lot of different types for different situations. Flaming arrows, traps, and electrified tripwires are just a few tricks up her sleeve. Crafting is directly linked to the economy of Horizon's world. Currency is called shards, which are also what are used to create the arrowheads you'll need to take down both man and machine. Basically, every arrow you fire takes a shard out of your pocket. This is an excellent way to keep the player from spamming attacks, because wasting ammunition means wasted money. This choice makes stealth an attractive option, and it makes the player more deliberate about how they want to approach an encounter with enemies. Stealth is the most economical way to play Horizon, and it's the most effective. Many of the tools you need to craft ammunition is found by foraging. As you travel across the world of Horizon, Aloy can pick up plants for extra health, wood for bows, and lots more. After killing a machine, you also get loads of goodies, including shards and resources. The skill trees are useful additions, but some of them I couldn't see much of a viable route to play with. The modifications you can add to your weapons and armor are very helpful in the fray. The various buffs help Aloy to take or deal damage more easily. Horizon Zero Dawn is one of the best looking games on the PS4, with one major exception. The characters all look great in cutscenes, but during in-game dialogue, Horizon looks weird. While watching characters talk to each other, they seem to not have control over their own faces. Oftentimes, characters look as if they're disembodied from their facial muscles. It looks as if everyone is having some kind of medical emergency. Their face muscles are spasming uncontrollably, and they seem terrified. A lot of these issues were shined up in Frozen Wilds. With that out of the way, the rest of Horizon looks fantastic. The world of Horizon has a wide biodiversity, with jungles, deserts, forests, and snowy peaks all looking excellent. Frozen Wilds does an excellent job of introducing a new type of region to the Horizon world. These frigid peaks have blinding snowdrifts. As you walk through the area, Horizon makes the player feel like they're knee-deep in slush. What's really cool about the frigid wastes of Frozen Wilds is that there's a lot of fire. You get transported into a working factory inside of a volcano, and this section is a spectacular finale to the DLC. The cities have an excellent level of detail. Architecture has a Near East, South Asian vibe that feels like something out of an adventure movie. Then there are ruins left behind by the people who inhabited the Earth before Aloy's time. These structures have a neglected sci-fi feel that reminds me of the Rebel base on Hoth from Star Wars, if it was left to the sands of time. In the world, there are a lot of derelict structures that give the impression of what life might have been like before Aloy's time. By far my favorite aspect of Horizon Zero Dawn are the character designs. Everyone looks so cool. The futuristic tribal appearance of the characters is by far one of the most unique things about the game. The primitive, techno-tinged characters all have a cohesion to them that adds volumes to the overall impressiveness of the experience. In particular, I like the headdresses, jewelry, and accents that are made from machine parts that almost all the characters wear. These small trimmings add an angular aspect to the naturalistic character designs. All of the tribes in Horizon have their own unique visual style to them, which at a glance conveys information without exposition. The star of the show, of course, is Aloy, and I love how she was designed. Her wild, fiery hair and green eyes conjure up feelings of a Nordic warrior. Aloy's physicality is front and center. She's physically strong, and her movement matches a trained hunter. However, she isn't masculine. Aloy is feminine without coming off as weak or lesser to her male counterparts. Aloy has some outstanding armor designs that all feel distinct. I am personally a big fan of the Karja armors. They all have a lightweight feel to them, and the contrasting colors really pop on the screen. Another cool visual aspect of Horizon Zero Dawn is the lens glare that enemies give off when they're around. On the screen, you'll see a lens flare when an enemy is to your flank. This visual cue is very helpful, especially when staying hidden. There are lots of particle effects during battles, and the lighting in Horizon is outstanding during outdoor gameplay. That brings us to the real draw of Horizon Zero Dawn for many: the robots. The lines for many of these mechanized enemies follow the same contours of the musculature of the animals they are based on. It's like you take a saber-toothed tiger, put armor, and mount a gun on it. And that's about 90% of the enemy designs. This is an extremely effective approach to design because the enemies are easy for the player to read and, in a strange way, intuitive as to how to exploit their weaknesses. The war machines left over from the prior civilization are more sinister. They have an arachnid style of mobility. Their black paint and swivel design feel less organic and serve as a clear contrast to the naturalistic machines found in the wild. Frozen Wilds introduces new types of adversaries, both man and beast alike. The extra mile of creating new assets for the map makes the experience feel more like a new game as opposed to a simple reskin. The sound in Horizon is, in a word, sophisticated. The enemies are easy to place off screen with the 3D sound design. Even more helpful in the combat is how unique all the sounds the machines make are. After a short time, you'll be able to tell what enemies are around you purely based on auditory cues. The sound of larger enemies firing machine guns and missiles have a low-end register that makes the battles feel chaotic. The machines found in the wild have a sci-fi tinged sound to their guns. They sound tinny and brittle by comparison. The ambient sound is equally immersive, with bird calls in the jungle and the sound of desert sands delicately scraping across dunes. Lastly, each bow has its own sound. That's just awesome. The level of sonic layering in a single battle is absolutely impressive.
Yes! Roar and rend at me. I don't fear it.
The soundtrack of Horizon Zero Dawn is quite large and enjoyable. While stalking your prey, the soundtrack takes a primal atmosphere, with woodwind instruments dominating the sound. While running across the plains, subtle arrangements drift in and out, effortlessly. These songs have an orchestral feel that fit the serene locales marvelously. Many of these arrangements skew toward the ambient. Minute progressions of sound build and shift, sometimes without you even noticing. The minimalist tones fit the pastoral surroundings perfectly. Once the action ramps up, so does the music. It takes on a thunderous, deep synthetic tone that tenses up the player. These tracks give the player a sense of urgency, trying to end the battle quickly. As fast as the calamitous cacophony begins, it recedes once the battle is complete. While in abandoned laboratories, these tracks are more inquisitive and reflect Aloy's own sense of discovery. Frozen Wild got its own soundtrack as well, and it fits the overall style of the base game soundtrack. All told, the soundtrack clocks in at about 5 hours. Personally, this soundtrack has enough variety in texture and styles to keep you interested long after the credits roll, and it can be enjoyed independent of the game.
Good. I'm gaining.
The outcast is catching up!
How'd she get up there? Play it. Come on now, hurry. Keep at it.
The voice acting in Horizon is a mixed bag. The level of quality is all over the place in the base game. Frozen Wilds feels much more polished though. While some of the voice choices are questionable, Ashley Birch nails the voice of Aloy. She gets the perfect balance of being strong without being callous, being naive without being stupid, being calculated without being cold.
There. Her bracelet. And I thought she was behind me. But there's only my reflection. Do you need to be alone? For the first time, I am.
Horizon Zero Dawn took me 31 hours to complete. I took my time and enjoyed it thoroughly. The difficulty in Horizon is surprisingly high for a AAA game.
Easy now. Easy. Right, it's never easy.
It doesn't take much to get in a bad situation, and the kill screen is common on normal. If challenge isn't your thing, the easier difficulties are very manageable. There are much higher difficulties as well. New Game Plus is available, and that's welcome in my book. I'd like to max out Aloy and try to beat the game on a higher difficulty in the future. The platinum for Horizon isn't that unreasonable, If you like to trophy hunt, Horizon is for you. There is a pretty in-depth camera option if that's what you're into. Horizon Zero Dawn Complete Edition goes for about $50 for the amount of content you receive via the base game and the Frozen Wilds expansion. This is a good bang for your buck. Of course, this being a Sony exclusive, prices are sure to drop over the next year or so. Horizon Zero Dawn shows a lot of potential for sequels, and I'm okay with that. As long as Aloy is the protagonist and mechanized dinosaurs can be blown up with flaming arrows, I'll be interested. Thus completes week 2 of March Mecha Madness. This year's theme is mechanized menaces. Check back next week for the most hostile humanoids in gaming. This is Zach with Tanuki Games. Please remember that a like, a comment, or subscribe means a lot to me and of course, the channel. Enjoy.
Hi! Happy birthday, Isaac! Daddy sure does love his little big man. Look, Daddy can't be there with you and Mom, but we can still have a party, right? Sure we can.
Show me. Show me again.
I can do. It's right behind you. Hi! Happy birthday, Isaac! Daddy sure does love his little big man. Look, Daddy can't be there with you and Mom, but we can still have a party, right? Sure we can.
Happy birthday, Isaac. Daddy sure does love his little big man.